world a better place, and the tragedies and set our spirits free. Together we can bring back home the ones who've lost, and give them love, and give them love. They can try to bring us down, but we know we're much too proud to lose faith. We have what it takes, 'cause we are a new generation. We are a new generation. We are a new generation. We are
You're fine. Your hair is so dang puffy right now. All right, we're up. We're what a hell of an intro.
What's
right
up,
there.
guys? Welcome to another episode of Generation Orange. I'm your host, Mark Segovia. You know, just me and Sean out here fooling around in the background, man. What's up, Sean? How you doing?
I'm pouring one out for our boy Albert Elise.
Albert Elise, man. I really miss that guy, man. He's out there doing pretty good in Portugal. But
you know,
man,
I didn't think our entire team's capability on offense was centered around Albert Elise. You know, everybody said it. You know, that was outside Houston, but it was hard to believe that was really the center point that actually made it all click. And then he leaves, and sure enough, it's the center point that somehow made it all click. And I still don't even understand how that worked. But anyways,
he was the glue of the team.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought you'd be saying that at the end of the 2020 season? Like, legitimately,
thought,
honestly, right? Here we are.
Yeah, man. 2020 has obviously been a hard year for a lot of us out in our, personal lives and work lives and all other types of lives. And especially if you're a Dynamo fan, man, 2020 was a pretty rough year for us as well. I mean, obviously it came to an end already. 2-1 loss to Colorado and at home. A last-minute goal and extra time, obviously a perfect way to finish off this season that's been really a lot of downs, man. I know we had the little spurt in the beginning when the restart started and we were a little bit up, but then it just kind of went downhill from there, man. And honestly, man, this season could have ended any sooner than what it has. And obviously, myself, of course, you, Sean, and a lot of you guys watching, and a lot of you guys who are going to be watching later on have been on Twitter with us, talking about the season and how a lot of things need to change, man. A lot of things need to change, and I don't think I'm the only one on here, feeling that way. I'm feeling a little disappointed, a little bit fatigued in the sense of it's like the same old. Over here playing my little violin back and forth. But yeah, man, it's frustrating as a fan, as a supporter of the Dynamo. I know you, Sean, obviously, and I know a lot of the other guys on the Twitch. By the way, how you doing, Twitch? Are frustrated, man. It's crazy to see that for a franchise that was highly rated in the late from 06 to 14. A highly rated franchise in MLS by MLS standards, I guess, has gone down so far, and it's crazy how, regardless of whatever is being done to try to change this, nothing's working, man. Nothing is working. Sean, I mean, what do you have to say, man? How are you feeling now that the season is officially over?
Is it bad to say that I'm genuinely relieved that the season is now over and we can finally start moving towards 2021? I think if you'd have asked me that question, midway through the season, through the return season, it might be a different story. But right now, for sure, 100%, I am relieved that the season is over. Jordi Alba says in Twitch chat, I found it interesting that Tab mentioned, and he's referring to Tab went on to Glenn Davis's Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5 last night. If you didn't get a chance to listen to that, you make sure you hit them up on TuneIn or the ESPN 97.5 app. You can listen to the podcast that way. And Tab said that he's going to look to add to the roster within MLS with players he's familiar with. He noted that that's what Colorado did with Austin Trusty, Jordan Lewis, Kellen Acosta, and other MLS veterans. It's the off season is a chance for Tab to reevaluate what he has and where he needs to go. George listened to the majority of that Tab interview, and so I'm sure he'll chime in with little tidbits throughout the show. George, I'm looking at you. No pressure though.
I did as well, so I mean, I know what's going on with that whole interview with Tab and stuff like that.
Look at you.
I know. Yeah, I know. George, obviously, stating that Tab, he wanted to bring some players from the MLS around, obviously, because if we want to turn the ship around, we need players who are already familiar with the league. Obviously that's one route to go. And, I know he spoke a lot about the youth and getting more youthful to have more athleticism and more pace on the ball. And, obviously that's one thing that we lacked. Obviously, when the beginning, we spoke about losing Elise, and Elise was a lot of pace on the ball, and obviously, I think Tab has seen what the difference is with Elise and without Elise. So, obviously, he wants to go a little bit more youthful. He has all those connections with youth players, regardless if it's from our academy or just bringing young players from other places into the club. I'm interested to see, first and foremost, what the process is going to be for him as far as deciding who stays and who goes. I know we had a chat on Twitter, about who do we think is probably gonna end up staying for sure. I know in the interview he obviously said for sure Junkwa, Palomino, Nico Limon is in the cards for next year. So we know that the young guys are gonna be here for next season, and he said they will be counted on. They've had their chances this season, to come out and show out, and next season there will be more pressure on them to show out. Obviously, it'll be another year for them. And then obviously there's other more veteran names out there that obviously are out of contract with us this season. And we'll see which one of those will stay and which ones won't. Because obviously, even if you want to go youthful and you want to go really young, you still need some veteran presence, to help along with the youngsters, to kind of steer them in the right way when things aren't going the way you want it to go, and to have like another coach on the pitch as well. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see who he decides to keep and who he decides to go. And one thing that kind of caught my attention from the interview with Glenn was people talking about Minor and Boniak, and obviously congratulations to them for being called up once again to the Honduran national team. That it's kind of time to move on from that era, and I couldn't be more in line with what he's saying. It's a shame that this season we started off with Minor as one of our starting center backs again. No disrespect to Minor. I mean, obviously he does whatever he needs to do to keep himself in shape and to make sure that he's available to the coach. And obviously he's done well above and beyond to obviously be named starter. And that guy has a lot of respect as far as professionalism, and the way he carries himself on the pitch and off the pitch, obviously. But if I think I said this last season when we started, if going to next season we have Minor as one of our starting center backs, and I think we already started the season off with a problem, as far as our back four. Now that's not to say I wouldn't mind the guy coming back for another year in a more mentor kind of role, especially if we're going to be youthful in the back. And, obviously he has a lot of experience and he can play bit minutes or emergency minutes or minutes for cup games or whatever the kind of games that come along for the 2021 season. But I can't have that. I can't have him be my starting center back again for 3rd year in a row, especially going to his age 38 year. So.
Yeah, I've mentioned it for the last 2 or 3 seasons that honestly, Boniek has kind of reached that point in his career where, moving forward with him is a detriment, I think, to the team. And I know there are a lot of people out there that they hear that and they, whoa, hold on type thing, but the reality is if your best midfielder, or if the guy that you have to keep around is 35, 36 years old, and getting into that age level, then you're not hitting the right notes that you need to hit. You're missing that talent evaluation. You're missing that scouting, and and I'm glad to hear that they want to go young. They want to go young players. I've been clamoring for that for as long as you've known me, Mark, if not longer. I've said that that's the way to go in MLS. If you're not going to spend big, go young, because younger players tend to be cheaper if you get the right players, and you can usually sell them on so you can make the money to then supplement what you need to do to purchase additional players. And again, we do have an academy that is producing. It's just a matter of getting those produced players to be able to produce, the players that are being produced to be able to find that groove within MLS. And, whatever Tab has planned for 2020, and he clearly has a plan and a vision, which, first of all, I asked for that exactly on Twitter. I need to know what the plan and vision is. I want to have a peek behind the curtain to see that, right? Whatever Tab's vision is, hopefully that vision does not include Matt Jordan. I am 100% over Matt Jordan. I think the tweet earlier from the Gen Orange account kind of said it all pre-show. I'm like I said, I'm ready to move on, and move towards 2020. And if the youth movement is the way it's going to be, then that's the way it's going to be. And I'm on board for that 100%.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy to think about, the players that we have on the team right now. I know Jordy mentions Cabrera on the chat, and I was talking to somebody, about what center backs would I keep, and obviously, Cabrera, I think I would keep him, and for Mayor, obviously, depending on how Tab feels. I mean, from all that I get from Tab is Tab likes the kid, but I don't know why he's not getting any playing time, but when he's out there, he plays pretty well. But on the Cabrera issue, I mean, I forgot who I was going back and forth with on Twitter. I think it was Travis. It might have been, but yeah, man, the Cabrera thing, it's kind of hard for me to let him go because of what we gave up to get him. We gave up Kyoto to the Montreal Impact, and Kyoto, for all the hard-headedness and crap that he had going on off the field here in Houston, he's done a pretty good job for Montreal over there with the Impact and Thierry Henry, and I think in all games he's scored 10+ goals. I think 7+ assists, something like that. I'm not too sure what his statistics were, but the last time I saw it, I think those were the numbers. So it is a little bit frustrating, to know that we basically, we targeted Victor Cabrera to kind of be there for us, to be, he has MLS experience. He's one of those players that, he's 29, 30, I believe, I'm not too sure of his age. So he's not too old, but he's a veteran presence that I think I would like to keep, especially if we do have youth in the back next season. And man, we'll see, man. We'll see. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how Tab goes about picking who stays and who goes.
So you mentioned Victor Cabrera. He is actually 27 years old. He will be 28 in February, and he's actually from Argentina.
Yeah,
I did not.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, that was he was picked up to be a depth center back to help compete with our center backs, and I agree with you. I mean, the loss of Kyoto with what Kyoto did in Montreal this season was far more output than we got from Cabrera. And I'm not even talking just attack-wise, but defensively, I feel like, what Cabrera gave you at CB was significantly below what Kyoto gave you out wide, especially this season when we needed, once Elise was gone and we needed that guy on the outside who could take over a match, attack-wise. I mean, just imagine this team with Kyoto and Lassiter and Morrow having somebody to constantly link up with, and Quintero being able to pass to. It would have been beautiful. But thank you, Matt Jordan, for getting rid of Kyoto for chump change. But that wasn't the only move that was made this season. We've also got the Zahibo transfer or trade. We've traded away a couple other players too. So yeah, that was part of the Zahibo trade. With Tommy Mack, and go ahead.
And honestly, I mean, like those two trades, just because you mentioned those two, and along with the Cabrera trade, I mean, it's a little bit of luck, obviously with Zahibo being injured, and then Cabrera being injured as well. So it's kind of one of those things where we didn't really see what these guys could really do for us. I mean, obviously, I know that Cabrera, came on for us at the end. Replacing Kiki in the starting center back next to Minor at the end of the season. So obviously, I trusted him enough to put him in that situation. And I think that he is going to be one of those guys that does come back, obviously, because, I mean, I think, you can't just go a couple games to seeing him, obviously after trading what you traded away for him. So I think that he's going to get another shot, and like I said, if he's your third center back or your top backup center back or whatever, I'm fine with that. He brings in quality minutes, and he's able to be there, be a bit starter, or whenever the center backs need rotation or whatever, or if you want to change the game up and you want to go extra defensive, you bring him in or whatever, because I think he plays center midfield as well, so he's versatile like that as well. So I'm not opposed to Cabrera coming back to the Dynamo next season, especially because we've only seen a little bit of him.
I struggle with Zahibo because I think what I've seen of him is enough for me to say I don't know if I really want to see another season of him attempting to try to make the start, so to speak. But you need a player in that position where Zahibo plays who has just an innate understanding of the game, and I felt like watching Zahibo at times he was just lost and confused, and I have to wonder if some of that comes from Tab playing a different system than he's used to playing a different style than he's used to playing. You're putting a player in a position and in a situation that if a player's not comfortable, with what you're trying to get them to do, or if that's not their skill set that they're used to playing, it can be very difficult for them to quickly adapt. And another thing that I think is interesting, and this may be a note for Zahibo and things like that, and even Struna to some extent. In watching the Amazon documentary on Tottenham, one of the things we saw in that documentary that was said, and it was kind of reiterated a few times, in the Premier League, and I think in MLS it's true as well, it can sometimes take players, a partial season or an entire season, to acclimate and to get comfortable with playing in the league, because it's a different league, it's a different style of play than in other places. And even players that move within the league can take some time to adjust to a new team. A good example of that was Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who came to Tottenham, at the end of last season, more or less, and played a couple matches, but wasn't quite the right fit. And then to start this season, when he got a full preseason essentially of practice with the players, with the team, he has been a complete anchor for that team. I think that Zahibo has a chance to be that, a chance to be a player who could adjust and adapt. I mean, you look at a player like Darwin Seren, who really should have been on the outs from the team at some point before Tab figured out how to unlock him as a defensive midfielder, as a central midfielder. And Zahibo could be that style player, but it's yet to be seen. That's the thing. We have to see something to give me hope in it.
I mean, and going with Zahibo, I mean, I remember the first match he came in for Vera as a substitute. We saw the difference. I mean, he's so much bigger, much more physical presence. He's kind of that Thomas Partey, since we're gonna compare here. You brought in Tottenham. I'll bring a little bit of Arsenal into the show. he's that big, center defensive midfielder, man. Very posing, to the players coming up for the attack, man. And I think if maybe if he gets a full preseason in with Tab, which I'm sure he is. I mean, I don't think he's just that player that, like I said, got injured. He had trouble acclimating himself to the team. Whatever. Like you said, sometimes it takes a player a little bit longer than normal to get acclimated with the system and the team. And obviously, he might be that type, and he might have a good preseason. And next season, he might be battling out with Vera for that starting DM, or maybe starting alongside him if Tab changes his 4-3-3 tactic, to a different 4-3-3 type. But it's one of those things where if it works out with him, I mean, you have a big physical presence in the defensive side, which obviously we need all the help that we can get on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm hoping that he does. I mean, if he passes the Tab eye exam or whatever, or however Tab feels about him, obviously these next couple of weeks, and next couple of months are going to be a lot. I expect to hear a lot of news about, who's coming and who's going, and obviously with the transfer window opening up in January, it's kind of a good thing that the Dynamo are done already. So that way they have full focus on the offseason and what they're going to do, they're going to target. And, I'm like you, man. I think you said it on Twitter or whatever. And I know we're sponsored today by #JordanOut. So, I think it's one of those things. If Jordan is going to be gone, hey, man, let him go already. Thank you for your services. And then, on the process of bringing in whoever you're going to bring in. So that way him and Tab can, put their brains together and start this offseason and start scouting whoever they're going to scout and try to bring in and focus on the players that they're going to try to bring in.
Absolutely. I did note that I did note that that there was a lot of the decisions, as far as I'm aware, were made by Jordan. And if that's the case, if Matt Jordan was the one who made those decisions, then by all means he needs to be gone. And I said this last week, that the guy that was under him, Nick Kalba, is not the guy that should be taking over this role. And my concern is, the way our ownership is, that might be the case. But I think on a fair note to that, the really great thing is that we do have, really 4 or 5 months, I think at this point, maybe even almost 6 months before the projected start of the next season. The rumor going around, the kind of talk going around is that March or April is looking to be the season opener for 2021. Harry says the season may start as late as April, May. I think that's a little bit long, a little bit later than when it should be starting. I've heard March, April.
They were talking about it's possibly going to be May.
I think if it's May, who's talking about that? Because I haven't seen it. Number one, and number two, I think. Tab said that? I was
talking about it with Linda. Yeah, that.
Oh, you know why?
They're shooting for an April.
You know why? Yeah, they're shooting for an April tournament, preseason tournament thing. They want to follow up the MLS is back type tournament thing, right? He may not have said that.
He didn't mention
that's the intent.
They're shooting for an April date, but more than likely it's looking like May.
Yeah, now that does make sense because, late April, like I said, I suspect we see kind of a preseason tournament similar to how MLS's back was structured, because it was such a successful tournament for the league, to be able to do that. I think they do that late March all the way through April. I think they try to spread it out a little bit longer, because there's not going to be CCL games to contend with in those months. You're already going to be missing out on so much of that transfer window if you start that late. You have to have something that's going to span a little bit of that time. And so I think they try to stretch the preseason out a little bit. And look, you don't need to give players 7 months off. And even if the, MLS Cup is in December, no matter what, it's scheduled for like December 10th right now, or 18th or something like that. You don't need 5 months after MLS Cup is over for an off season. Typically our off season is what, 2 months?
And you also got to think about the some of the teams competing in CONCACAF Champions League.
Oh, they're not going to have CCL They're not going to have CCL. They're going to have 2, maybe 4 CCL matches in there, and they're still going to. So think about the way that we normally have done it. Think about when the Dynamo last year. You all right over there? Get some water, bro.
Yeah, just a little bit of dust around there.
Yeah, is that what it is? Think about the way that when the Dynamo were in CCL, think about the way that went. We had our preseason matches while we were playing in CCL, and it wasn't an issue. We even played our first couple of weeks while we still were playing CCL of the season. And, why should this season be any different in 2021? Don't you want to get the season started so you can get it over?
Look, I agree with you. I mean, like I said, I'm just telling you what Tab and Glenn were talking about last night.
Now, Serge brings up a good point. Sergio brings up a good point. He says there are talks about having Open Cup and CCL start before MLS season. If they do the entire Open Cup as a full tournament that actually runs the entire length before MLS season starts, first of all, please do that, MLS. Please do that, USSF, because that is the best case scenario for every team across every league, across every division. And I've always clamored for US Open Cup being a tournament that's fit into a 3 to 4 week span and just stop MLS play so that MLS teams can put everything into that tournament instead of half-assing it like we've had to do because we have a match 2 days later or 3 days later, and now you have and you had a match 2 days or 3 days before. Let's put it in a time block where players are getting up to speed. You give a really good chance to your players in USL to have an opportunity to for their teams in USL to be able to actually compete with MLS teams that are starting to slowly get into their groove. I think it'll just create some more. I think it'll create some better storylines than we have, mid-season in the middle of a kind of throw-off period in the middle of the summer when nobody really cares about Open Cup. Doing it at the beginning of the season, I think has a lot of benefit.
I mean, obviously, with MLS Cup being at the first week of December, I believe, and then obviously the CCL tournament being held in Orlando to finish off the games that they're doing there and crowning a champion. Obviously, that's gonna finish out during the month of December. If what Sergio's saying is true, I can see them trying to start the 2021 version of the CCL, obviously in February, like they normally do or whatever, and get those first couple of matches done. So that way they can try to get that out the way and then maybe carry on to the quarters and semis and so on and so forth, however that normally happens. And as far as the US Open Cup, it would be interesting to see how they go about it, because obviously the lower level teams that are usually participating in this competition, it'd be kind of hard for them to kind of get it to kind of move around and stuff like that, obviously because of the whole COVID stuff. It's not as easy for them as it would be for the special teams, unless they keep it in a bubble somewhere,
like the ESPN Disney Worldwide World of Sports complex.
So
in Orlando.
like that. But still, it would require a lot of lower level teams, to money funded for them to travel over there and all that stuff. Obviously we know that this cup holds teams from a lot of lower level division soccer teams, that a lot of us don't even know about for the most part. So, but that's neither here nor there. But as far but if that's the case, then I guess we will have some soccer around February, March, April, I guess, and then the MLS season starting hopefully in April rather than May. But because I don't think they need that much time off. Unless they have some kind of scheduling conflict, I guess, because since ESPN and Univision is the main, TV source for them, unless there's conflicts as far as scheduling because of other commitments to bigger leagues, obviously. But I don't see why they would need 5 months to get started all over again, because obviously, say for example, if you January transfer window, those new players that come in, you're going to sit them down for 3-4 months after you signed them. That's not productive at all. Or you would have to send them back on loan like we had to do with Mateo, or maybe just wait and not sign anybody. And since you're so close to the summer transfer window, just sign them in the summer.
And that's what I was saying. It really jacks with your business model around the transfer window, because it's like, and if you have a player that wants to leave, for instance, like if we had another Elise situation, or like say Morrow wants to leave, you're not going to sell him in the winter window, but then you kind of have to consider I'm only going to have him for a month before the summer window opens at that point if we're starting that late. So then let's go ahead and sell him in the winter window. So there's going to be, they need to figure that out sooner rather than later, and they need to state it for the teams. I don't care if we as fans know. Look, like I get it, but I think it's important that teams know what the plan is, because they have to make business decisions around those plans. They have to decide what the next steps are going to be, and we're not the only team in this situation that needs to figure out where things go from here. You've got Nashville that definitely have thoughts and decisions to make. You've got Atlanta that have huge decisions to make right now. You've got the Galaxy that obviously have already made one of their decisions and probably will make more coming up soon. So you have plenty of teams that are waiting to decide what they're going to do. And I think some of those decisions hinge upon when does the season actually start? What does preseason look like? What are these tournaments that are going to be starting, to start before the season starts? When are they running? All of these questions need to be answered. And the longer USSF and MLS take to figure out the answers to this, the harder it is for business people to make the right decisions.
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, and like I said, it's the difference between signing a marquee player in January as opposed to signing him in June, July, when the summer transfer open windows, and you're already 2 months into the season when you could have had him in the beginning of every season, impacting those games. So it can either hurt or it can help or harm a team, depending on what the team's situation is. And as far, obviously we're focused here on the Dynamo, and a bright side could be as well, we need as much time to prepare, because obviously we're going to have a lot of changes going on, not just as player personnel, but obviously in the front office, hopefully, and so it's one of those things where maybe it can help the Dynamo in that sense, but I see it from your standpoint, Sean, and I do agree with what you're saying. It does hurt a lot of business as far as like, on what you're going to do, what you're going to have available, timing of things, especially when it comes to player personnel and bringing in players from different leagues or from different areas of, different areas, just, a lot of factors, a lot of variables that need to be taken into consideration with this decision coming up with USSF and MLS. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for a sooner kickoff than May.
Yeah, absolutely. Sergio brought up a really good point. He said, one of the things is they're probably waiting to hold off as long as they can in hopes of a vaccine. MLS, and this is going to be true across MLS and USL, they want full capacity stadiums as soon as possible. I think that makes a ton of sense, but like I said, the league may view it that way, but if I'm the Dynamo, or even if I'm not the Dynamo, if I'm a team that's in the playoffs and I'm a general manager or I'm a president of soccer operations or whatever it is, I'm asking the league, you need to make a decision. I know we want to wait for some news about a vaccine to find out what's going to happen, but we also can't operate on waiting until the very last minute, even though that's kind of MLS's MO. That's how they run. I don't think it's good for business. It's really not.
Oh, it isn't, especially when you're a growing brand of soccer, because all the other soccer leagues aren't waiting for anything. They're continuing their businesses and they're going business as usual, regardless if they have fans in the stands or they don't. And we need to keep that mindset where. Excuse me. Give me a sec, Sean.
Oh, you're good. So real quick before he finishes that point, while he grabs his breath and maybe drinks a little bit of water, as I told him to do earlier, and he wouldn't listen to me. Oh, that's great. He made the layout look like crap. Good job. Sergio says also, what do y'all think about the Hold It Down FC stuff? Excited about the 17th. I mean, there's been teaser videos out on YouTube. There have been teaser tweets and social media posts, Instagram and otherwise. I'm personally, like I said in chat, I love it. I'm geeked for the 17th, and I've said that I'm the leaked rebrand logo, the leaked rebrand kind of color, palette, that kind of stuff. I am excited for that stuff. I think it looks good. I think it's clean. And that's one of the things that I wanted in a new logo, is something that was clean, something that had some nice clean lines to it, because there's a lot you can do with that just in general. And it doesn't detract from whatever other stuff you do, but it's something you can use for multiple purposes. So I see that he is back now. Mark, would you like to finish your thought, and then we can talk about the rebrand here in a second?
Yeah, man, I'm sorry about that, man.
Hey, man,
yeah, like,
health happens.
yeah, like I was saying prior to coughing off a lung, it's business as usual for other leagues in soccer, and if we're trying to compete with all these other leagues globally, we can't be faltering and being a reactive league and not being proactive. That's why I kind of got to applaud the Bundesliga. Obviously they were the first league to kind of go forward and start playing soccer again. And they did what they did. They knew they couldn't have fans, and they didn't have fans, and they kept it business as usual. Just go out there and play soccer. We're all professionals here. We've played in empty stadiums before, as younger players, and unfortunately, it's not where we want to be. We want to have a stadium full of fans and supporters, but that's just not the case right now. And I think MLS needs to follow that protocol and just keep going forward. And when the vaccine comes, if it does come, then you take that approach, and then you go see what happens. And then if you can bring fans in, then bring fans in. But I'd rather have half a season of a full stadium and have a whole season with no supporters, because we were reactive, and then the vaccine didn't work, and then blah blah, and whatever other else thing could happen, because unfortunately we've been in a time where not too many positives have happened, so we gotta kind of approach it with what's the worst thing that could happen, worst case scenario, and when that vaccine comes out, I don't see too many people rushing to be one of the first ones to take the vaccine. It's one of those things where a lot of people are going to see, well, let me see how it affects these other people first beforehand, before I start putting whatever in my body that I don't even know what it is, So.
Is that going to be your approach when the vaccine finally comes out? Mark, are you gonna hold off and wait until see if everybody else turns into zombies first?
I'll let you take it first, Sean. Let me know how it goes.
Hey, I will take it first. I will take it first. If I have to shove a bunch of COVID into my body, then by God, I'm gonna do it.
No, man, I've been ducking and dodging COVID this whole time. Being out there peddling all this beer. So I mean, and fortunately for me, I haven't caught it. I don't knock on wood, obviously, but yeah, man, it's not one of those things where when the vaccine comes out, because it's crazy, and I know we're getting a little bit off topic here.
I mean, technically, that is the topic of 2020. Let's actually, 2020 is the topic of 2020, but I digress.
When something like that important is getting rushed, my opinion, it looks like it's getting rushed to get out there, to be pushed out there, to be the first instead of to be the safest. It's kind of worrisome sometimes, Hopefully they push it. Pfizer gets it out there first, and it's the cure to whatever we need, and everything's back to normal. But that's a lot of what ifs,
It is what it is. I just thought I'd ask.
You were talking rebrand?
Rebrand. Sergio asked, I'll remind you what he said. He said, what do y'all think about the about Hold It Down FC? He said, are you excited about the 17th?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously it's one of the little positives that we have to look forward to this offseason, especially since we're in offseason, since there's no playoff soccer to watch. I'm looking forward to see what they're talking about, what the Hold It Down FC is supposed to, what it's all about, what it means, and, what I guess the future of the Dynamo is going to look like, what the rebrand is officially going to look like. Because, I mean, obviously we've seen designs out there and all this other stuff, but to have it out officially now on the 17th would be, obviously good to see, to, I guess the start of a new beginning, hopefully, maybe a new winning culture, and, going forward after this. But yeah, man, I mean, obviously, I've been on a little bit of the opposite side of you as far as the rebrand kind of being on the wrong timing of things right now. But I mean, they're doing it. They're going forward with it. I applaud them, and hopefully it all goes well and it looks good. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of dope merchandise and gear and jerseys coming out right after that. So we'll see. Maybe
did you like the
scarf on the back?
There you go. Yeah, another scarf. Did you like the caller on Glenn Davis's show that asked the question, "What is Hold It Down"? Did you hear that question?
Yeah. So this guy comes on, man. And you can hear the frustration in his voice, and he made some kind of good points. He's one of those fans where he he has a lot to say, but I guess he kind of didn't know how to say it well. And he was like, kind of frustrated all over it. And that's good to hear. I mean, I'm glad to hear people like that out there, that they're just passionate about this club, and in no ways am I trying to make fun of the caller or whatever or anything like that. And if you're out there listening to us, man, what's up, man? How you doing? But, it's like I said, I understand where he's coming from. Like, why are we worrying so much about this new marketing, this new rebrand, whatever, when we should be focusing on the product on the pitch and trying to get better on the pitch and all this other stuff, which I'm totally 100% for. But like I said, the front office and the owners and whoever's behind this already put this plan into place. It's already going to happen. There's a date. Everything's already set up for it. Let's see what happens. And then hopefully this is the spark of a new beginning and a new winning culture for the Dynamo.
Or it's a spark of something that'll last. It's like the tire fire in The Simpsons. It'll just continue to last for decades and decades. We'll just continue to be that picture, if you will. No, I'm kidding. I think it is a move in the right direction, and I get some people, hey, is this really the right time? But hey, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it. They've held off for a few years. I can promise you that. Why hold it off any longer? Another year is not going to help you any whatsoever. Might as well just do it now and bite the bullet and get it over with, so you can at least get moving in that direction. I think if they had their way, they would wait for a good season, a really strong season performance where we make it into the playoffs, and they kind of use that to buoy season ticket sales for the next season. But again, this is 2020, and 2020 had its own plans for everything.
Yeah, what this kind of reminds me of? It's like when the Astros came out with their new logo, well, kind of semi-new logo, whatever, and new color scheme, and like I think it came out in 2014, and 2015 they started their playoff run and their World Series run and all their their current run that they're on right now. Hopefully we get the same thing, man. We get this new logo out, new slogan, new scheme, new everything, and it kind of brings just a whole brand new positive energy and new vibe to the club and to the supporters. And because obviously, Lord knows we need it, right, man? We need some positive vibes out here,
So what you're hoping for is, just to clarify, what you're hoping for is that Tab starts to become that coach that encourages cheating, that our new GM comes and encourages cheating, so that we can win MLS Cup, and then in 2 or 3 years later, we can have players that used to play for us that no longer play for us come out and say, hey, man, we were definitely cheating, and now we've got to answer to the commissioner who, for some reason, decides that we were the only team actually cheating, even though every team in the league was cheating the exact same way we were cheating. So that's what you're looking forward to? You're looking forward to that asterisk on our eventual MLS Cup win? Is that what I'm hearing there, Mark?
Man, when you win a championship, it gives you a 10-year grace period.
10-year grace period, damn. Yeah, you're not wrong. If you think about it, you're really not wrong. So let me ask you this. So do back-to-back MLS Cup championships, do those give you 20 years of grace?
It looks like we're paying for it right now.
I'm telling you, man. I don't know if I can wait another 4 years. Whew.
Maybe.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so obviously without the cheating involved, but if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? I'm just kidding. I kid.
It's all you, buddy. I'm typing on Twitter.
Excuse me, man. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to cough up this lung again, but.
Oh no, you're good. So, what else we want to talk about? It is what it is. We've kind of your poll. We want to talk about your poll from today. That's right. That's what we want to talk about.
Man, so for sure. I'm sorry, man. I know I'm getting a little distracted with this cough, man. But no, man. Yeah, just I put up the poll, the question of the day for us. Obviously, every Wednesday when we have a show, when we go live, I try to get a poll up for you guys so trying to interact with us, so that way we have something to talk about with you guys when we get on with the show. And for today's poll, I asked a very simple question, and obviously, with the offseason being officially underway, if you can only have one, which of the following would y'all like to see happen this offseason? And the choices were sign a high-end DP, 2 new center backs, quality depth for the bench, more youth academy players. And currently right now with 69 votes, nice, 48% of y'all want 2 new center backs. which I'm not opposed to. I think that's the choice I picked. Our defense is really leaky, and has been for years now. And like we stated last show, man, it seems like we've been looking for center backs for years, man. And hopefully we can finally find a pair that can work together and kind of solidify the defense for us. And in second place, sign a high-end DP, which obviously I'm not opposed to either. Especially if that DP is a player who can make life a lot easier for our front three and be able to distribute goals. Distribute the ball to Mauro and Darwin and Lassiter and whoever's up there in front to score these goals. Obviously, in my opinion, I think if we're gonna spend DP money, I think we need a cam, a true number 10, but it has a lot of vision and pace and can distribute balls. Somebody that can have 15 plus assists a year would be very nice. But I don't know. Maybe some people might think I know. Last show you talked about getting a high end DP striker. Which, hey, if you bring somebody in that can solidify 20 goals a year for the Dynamo, I'm not opposed to that either. And add quality depth and more youth came at the tail end. So I'm not even going to mention those. But yeah, it seems like the whole fan base is more inclined to fixing our defense and adding somebody of quality, high quality, to our team, which I think we've been preaching to the choir about that for like the last 2-3 seasons now. Ever since we've kind of just dropped the ball with signing quote unquote DPs, but our DPs are kind of on the lower end as far as salary, and I think talent wise as well, with obviously a lot of failure in DPs like Tomas and Kubo Torres and things of that nature. So,
which is funny, right? Because Kubo goes off to Atlanta. He performs moderately okay. I wouldn't say great, but Atlanta's looking to already can him and move him on. So that tells you, that tells you what they're looking for versus what we're looking for. I would not be shocked to see, because Atlanta's looking for a possible move for a striker, and fans are not going to hear me say this, but I would not be shocked to hear that Atlanta's already inquired about Mauro as a possible striker for their system. I think that pairing right there would be, as a backup, to clarify, as a backup for Joseph. I could see that actually being something that Atlanta would want to do.
And it just shows the level of consistency that each team has. Like we think of a player that we currently have that we adore. We're like, man, we can't get rid of him. But another team looks at that player like, man, that's our backup, man. That's knows if he can even get on the pitch. And it's sad, man. That, our level of standard is crap.
We've been beaten down for so long at this point as a fan base that we look at players that we're bringing in as as the greatest thing since sliced bread. Kiki came in with a ton of hype, and and now now I don't even know if we could trade Kiki with an MLS, let alone transfer him out if we wanted to.
And it's funny because obviously our biggest signing last season was Darwin, but Darwin couldn't even make it on Minnesota. And it could be a lot of things, it could be a lot of things that went into that decision for him leaving Minnesota. Obviously the coach might not have been fond of him, or the playing style or whatever didn't fit right. But still, if your best signing is a 32-year-old left winger or cam player, that yeah, he had great moments in other leagues and he's won titles in other leagues and he's played for the Colombian national team and stuff like that. But that's past his prime. This is talking about 32, 33-year-old player. When you have teams like Atlanta, LAFC, Seattle signing players that are 2021 going into their prime with chances to progress and up their level, to be sold on later on to bigger clubs, to make money, to reinvest, to do it all over again. Over here, we're just trying to sign a good player. Hopefully he comes over here at 29, 30, where he can give us 2 or 3 good seasons, and then on voyage, and try to do it again. That model of transferring doesn't work for us, because obviously we're not a big spending club, but we're trying to make money where we can. And then when we do get a player like Albert Lees where he can bring some return, too scared to sell him off. So
And again, that may be chalked up to Matt Jordan and the way he does business and the way he conducts business. Again, a new GM, and maybe that's not an issue. And I do feel like you maybe missed a selection option there is, new GM, or maybe you missed two, new ownership. If I had to vote between new GM or new ownership right now, I think I got to go new GM first and then new ownership second, because even if you get new ownership in here, it's still going to be another year or two before they acclimate and figure out what they want to do as a direction. I mean, I still want to see that happen, I think, at this point. No offense to Brenner and company, but I just think it's time,
For sure, and speaking of GM, I was talking to somebody on Twitter, and I was telling them, like, man, it's one thing to bring in somebody new, but it's another thing to bring in somebody who's ready, with a plan and understanding of the situation they're getting themselves in. Because if nothing changes, if he's given the same limitations that have been given to Matt, I need somebody who's ready to conquer those limitations. Have a plan ready for the next season, a 3-year plan, and hopefully a 5-year plan if he's still here by that during that time period, and be able to execute at a high rate that plan, because it's one thing to say, oh, I have a plan this year, we're going to do this. 3 years down the line, we have this. It's great to say it, but how much of those plans are you actually executing and bringing to life? And hopefully whoever we do bring in, is able to do that. And I'm hoping as well, with this whole thing, and like, I don't think the club is naive. I know that they hear what the public is saying out there and the supporters are feeling and all that stuff, and I hope that, that they're able to give out a little bit, because I mean, like I said, this whole rebrand is great. It's nice, cool, whatever. But we would give this whole rebrand up, see a good quality team on the pitch that's competing year in and year out, MLS playoffs, and competing for championships and for silverware.
Yeah, absolutely. Sergio says I'd pick new ownership over new GM, and I think that is definitely a valid point. Like I said, I think I pick new GM first, and the only reason for that is I think even new ownership with the same GM is still going to produce about the same results. It's become clear that Matt Jordan is not a talent evaluator whatsoever, and Tab may have his ideas as to what he wants, but if he doesn't have a GM that can go out and make it happen, then it's not going to matter what he wants to do. But new ownership is not a guarantee of anything either. I still say that, be careful what you wish for. A new ownership could certainly bring us positive, changes, but it's not a guarantee of that.
But it's crazy because, like, I know a lot of people want to get the owners out, and like I said, like you saying, be careful what you wish for, because sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side, right? But you see all over the world, there's a lot of clubs. I mean, 80% of the clubs running. I mean, and I'm just throwing out a number here, but I think I'm pretty close. Like 80% of the clubs in the world are not running business like, Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, blah, blah. These clubs have to run a certain type of way to survive, to make profits, to pay their employees, to play their players, to pay whatever, and to do whatever they got to do, build their stadiums, et cetera, et cetera. Dynamo are not exempt from that. No team in the MLS is exempt from that, right? But it's having the right people in place to execute whatever you've been given to maximize the product at the end, or the profits at the end.
So I'm gonna give you a moment. No, I'm gonna give you a moment to clear your throat real quick, and I'm gonna build on what you just said. And Sergio pointed this out, and this is something I've said before too. I know I've said remember to always be careful what you wish for, because you never know what you're gonna get. And I think a perfect example is how many fans, not all that long ago, we're talking maybe a month or two ago, were clamoring, absolutely dying for, and put it out on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, that they wanted Fertitta to buy when that article came out that Brenner was considering potentially selling his stake in the Dynamo. They were clamoring for Fertitta to be the first one to line up and sell, and buy that share. And the thing is a bad owner can negate anything that a good GM can do. So we still do need to have a good owner. You look at it with the Rockets, and I think Sergio's eloquently putting it here. He said, with the Rockets, we had a good GM and a bad owner, and we still competed. Without Morey, it's not looking too good. But we'll have to see. And I think I agree. I mean, there's rumors that Russell Westbrook and James Harden have both said if the Rockets are gonna blow it up and start fresh, they don't want to be part of it, and they want to be traded, and they have their list of teams they want to go to. And it's sad that they're 1 year removed from all the hype coming in because they had put these two incredibly talented players together. And I feel like we have to be careful that we don't clamor so much for we need a superstar to compete. We need a superstar to compete. We need that big name to compete, that we lose sight of the fact that soccer is a team sport significantly above and beyond anything that basketball could ever hope to be when it comes to team sport. You have to have a team to win in soccer, consistently win in soccer. Yes, you can build a team of superstars. That is possible, but it is more likely that you're going to build a team and have one or two big name players and compete that way. With as many expiring contracts as we have this offseason, I don't know what that solution is, and I don't know how the Dynamo end up working it. But it sounds to me, based on Tab's interview yesterday and what I've heard, that we shouldn't expect a whole lot this offseason. It's going to be a lot of little to nothing. It's going to be table scraps from the rest of MLS, and I don't think anyone is going to argue that at this point. Go ahead, Mark.
No, yeah,
clear your throat.
No, yeah. I mean, basically going off the it was talking about yesterday with the callers. I mean, the mechanism, the way things are done with MLS, it's hard to do a complete overhaul. Obviously because you have a lot of things that need to fall in line with the salary cap here in MLS. And then on top of that, if you don't have an owner who's willing to really spin like Arthur Blank with Atlanta United, or the guys up there in Seattle or and things of that nature, then it becomes even that much more difficult. And it's tough because us as fans, we do want to see brand new faces. We want to see players that we kind of are familiar with that can bring excitement to the club, that we know will bring extra bit of oomph to the club. But it's an unfortunate thing. I mean, you got to think about it from your standpoint. If you're a player of quality and the Dynamo are approaching you to come over and you have other offers on the table, what about the Dynamo makes it so appealing to come over here? You got to think about that mindset. I mean, I'm sure that the Dynamo have approached players that we probably are familiar with. At the same time, how easy was it for Matt Jordan to try to get that executed? Because it's not Houston. The Dynamo is not an easy sell right now because the franchise has been such a dismal place for the last 6-7 years. So I mean, that's why you bring in these Central American players, South American players from lower divisions, and things of that nature, because you're hoping that those players are hungry enough to up the level of the club to where you can start a winning culture. And then once you got a winning team, you sprinkle in that little bit of sauce on it, which I'm parlaying to, a top name player or whatever that can carry your team over to the next level. But we're not even there yet, man. We can't. I mean, think about it, Sean. This year you got an 18-team playoff. We're not one of those 18 teams. That's sad, man. In a 24-team league.
We won't. I don't want to touch on that right now. I really don't. I agree with you. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's hard to deal with. It's hard to accept that we're in the position we are. I mean, we were such a good team. If you look at a decade ago, let's go a decade ago. 2010, we were such a good team. Maybe not 2010. 2010 is probably not the best year to point to. But either 2009 or 2011. We were good teams back then, and MLS passed us by, and we never adapted. We haven't caught up yet, and we're still trying to play catch up. And to me, if you want to look at and try to figure out what the pieces are that you're missing, that get you to that next step that you want to take, which is get your damn ass in the damn playoffs. It's pretty simple. You have to either get new ownership or a new GM or both, and I don't see ownership changing this offseason, so we look at a new GM as the possibility. Look, if we do end up with a new ownership by season start in May, then I'm on for the ride, depending on who it is. Hopefully it's not Fertitta, but whoever it is, I do think that.
Sean,
Go ahead.
what's funny? You bring that up. A caller did mention last night and on the interview with Glenn and Tab. Well, actually with Glenn after Tab left. Who do you think would win in a match? The championship squad of the Dynamo or the 2020 Dynamo? And Glenn was like, well, it's a little bit hard to, that championship team had accountability.
Yep.
So they might have not been the world class players and this, that. They might have not had the athleticism that the current squad has, but that team had a lot of accountability, a lot of veterans. And if you messed up, trust me, 2 or 3 guys were in your face right there, right after telling you what you messed up on and to get it right, And
I want to actually piggyback on that, if you don't mind, because we saw that in the final match of the season. You saw that there was one play in particular, and it was Memo calling somebody out, and it was another play. It was Memo and I think Quintero. And it was basically there should have been a pass played across instead of a shot taken, and it was probably by Lundy. I don't remember, I don't remember who exactly it was that took the shot. It might have been Seren. It was Seren. Seren had the ball on the outside, he was running into the box, and it was a beautiful pass to get him the ball, and he really should have taken the shot. Instead, he tried to pass it across the face of goal, and there was a defender there to immediately block the pass. But players were immediately on him, and it wasn't just Memo. It was, like I said, it was multiple players, but there was so much accountability in that one moment, and I have not seen that. I've seen that maybe twice this entire season, but to see that come out, and Glenn called it out, and Eddie called it out on the broadcast, that was almost relieving to me to finally see that. It was finally like, somebody was stepping up and saying, all right, that's it. I'm done watching us half-ass our way through this season. I know it's the last match of the season, but damn it, we're better than this. We need to show it. And it was like, as a fan, I connected with that moment. That moment stuck with me. Out of that entire match, I couldn't probably tell you even. I remember Morrow scoring the goal, but don't ask me the buildup. I couldn't remember, but I could tell you what happened in that play where the players kept each other accountable, because that was such a powerful moment for me.
It's a good thing because next season, Memo's going to be a veteran player.
Yeah.
If this youth move,
he's technically a vet player now, but I digress.
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, as far as longevity with the Dynamo, being one of the longest tenured Dynamo players next season, because if this youth movement goes the way we think it's going to go, and a lot of academy players are going to get a chance, and we're going to have a lot of young players and all that stuff, Memo's going to be one of those veterans that, that are sought out there, and hopefully maybe by that season or next season, Memo will have a much more bigger voice. I'm not doubting that Tab is in Memo's ear talking about, hey, man, getting these guys asses. I know some of these guys are older than you and have played, in different leagues and won things, whatever, this and that. But you're one of the longest tenured Dynamo here. You're one of our, homegrown, and you're what I want this team to represent. The hard work that gets you from the bottom to the top, because that's Memo's story. He started from the academy, driving however many hours to get over here to practice and play. And, he's one of 2, if you want to include Tyler Derrick, that actually done something in the Dynamo organization, making it to the first team and actually being a part of the first team and scoring and assisting and doing something positive in his team, So I'm sure Tab is using his story to kind of propel and fuel fire underneath him and tell him, hey, man, next season when this team becomes a lot younger, you're going to be one of the old heads. I need you to hold these younger kids accountable. So,
all right, so we're going to go ahead and close the show right around here. I know everybody's going, wait, what? It's only been an hour, but I think we're good for an hour. We got plenty to talk about this offseason, and there's going to be plenty of offseason to talk, so we don't want to expend it all right here. Go ahead, Mark.
A lot of offseason.
Oh, that's what I said. A whole lot of offseason. But before we get there, I did want to note, and I think it was really good, something Sergio said in chat. Sergio's been on fire tonight, by the way. I always compare us to Columbus. If you ask players, 90% of them would rather live in Houston than Columbus. Why can't we get players like Zlarian, Pedro Santos, Mensa, or Arthur? They somehow built a good organization after the Save the Crew debacle. No excuse to why Houston can't do that. too. And you know, my response to that is, if Austin can be that, if Columbus can be that, we certainly can be that. And I think part of that, and I'm going to say this, and this will be my closing statement for I think this show, and then I'll let Mark kind of finish it off. But I think players tend to avoid Houston in general because of our ownership and our GM, and I'll leave it at that.
I think my personal belief on that statement, and I said on the chat, we should be at least on par with Columbus, if not better, a better organization, right? But there's a difference when you have a plan in place. And I think ever since the new owner for Columbus came in, he had a plan for that team, what he wants to achieve when he bought that club. He put the people in place that he wanted to put in place. He got his coach after Greg Berhan went over to the national team. He got the coach he wanted, who had a plan in place of how he wanted to play soccer and the players that he wanted to bring in. And they went and executed. They went and got players like Nagby. They went and got players like Lucas Selanaya from Tigres. They got Zardes the prior season from the Galaxy, and traded away Kamara because he didn't fit the scheme of the coach. They made the moves that they felt necessary to achieve what they're achieving right now presently, and you can see the difference in it. Especially them being rock bottom and that not knowing whether or not they were going to have a club the next season. Then to achieve what they achieved, I applaud the Columbus Crew.
I'm letting you close it out. I said that.
No, and that's it, man, guys. Hey, unfortunately, we're riding the same ship. Hopefully, it doesn't sink on us. I mean, we're looking forward to November 17th to see what this Hold It Down FC is all about. And I'm sure that me and Sean will be on next week. Talking about it. Well, actually, it'll be the 18th. So, have something to talk about next week. As far as the rebrand and all that stuff that's going on. So. Looking forward to seeing you next week, man. But otherwise, keep holding it down.
Hold it down, baby. Let's go.